welcome to the Mantic Universe Podcast. This is your host Matthias speaking, and we are in for another episode of Dreadball, this time with Allstars. And I'm here with Matthew and Dom. Hello, guys.
Hello.
Good evening.
And as we missed the great announcement with our last recording by a day,
which is fantastic timing on our part.
Yeah,
couldn't be better.
Typical.
Now we have the chance to sum up everything that is coming out now in the last weeks and consolidate all the information for you guys, so you don't have to dig it up, but just listening to our podcast to sum it up for you. And yeah, let's just straight in. Allstars was announced. It's going to Kickstarter soon. And just the original Kickstarter information is reading this out. The starting pledges include a 4-team box, an arena, and everything 2 players need to get playing. Higher pledges bring additional teams, new arenas, 6-player battle royale, championship play, premium components, and more. The campaign includes the standalone game, 7 teams each with 5 pre-assembled and distinct pre-assembled miniatures and distinct playstyles, 4 arenas with new game modes, and a 6-player battle royale arena. Championship play introduces out-of-the-box tournaments with legacy cards and exclusive Kickstarter pricing with huge savings. I think this sounds all right for a
Sounds like an ad read.
Yeah. No, okay. So
the Kickstarter is ultimately, the Kickstarter page is ultimately an ad, so that you are
in that case, it's definitely an ad. It's like different to what Mantic did with Epic Warpath, where they needed the Kickstarter to finance their plastic miniatures or the mold and manufacturing of the plastic miniatures. In this case, it's really more like an ad, and I think the main reason is because most board gamers are familiar with Kickstarter and look into that. So it's a very good platform if you want to announce a new board game for later this year. So yeah, I say I'm neutral on this one. I would prefer a straight retail thing, but I can see why they're doing that via Kickstarter to get more traction in the field. It's also, I think, important to get when you have the Kickstarters with a huge, or say with a discount on the pricing, so you get initially a higher player base or a larger player base, so people to start with. When everything hits retails, there are already people out there having their boxes, having paint and stuff, and are ready to play. So this should also help to get the game traction out in the field with the stores. Yeah, so what's your feeling about doing it in the Kickstarter and what we get in there? Because I'm personally a little bit surprised that we get a Battle Royale with the 6-player maps straight out. I expect this to be an add-on later. So what do you guys think about it, Matthew?
They've had a lot of success with Kickstarters before. I think second edition did a similar thing. They had the Kickstarter, the core box, and on the other side of that pitch was the ultimate pitch, where 6 players, or 3 to 6 players, could battle it out in a kind of smaller pitches of their own, but a bigger overall pitch. And that's a similar idea with this 6-player battle royale, and I think it might be a case of 1 or 2 all-stars per team, possibly. And then it was probably a different game mode altogether, judging by the name Battle Royale. But
I wonder.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. The mind boggles.
I mean, that Battle Royale, I mean, that's me as a nerd in the geek culture. I know the Japanese movie with the same name, which is a Last Man Standing in a school area. So yeah, and
that's been,
for me, that name
many,
sounds
many
like
times.
something like this. Yeah,
it might be something similar. It might be a more aggressive form of Dreadball in that sense. It might be kind of borrowing off Overdrive in that they have a kind of last man standing mode almost. You kind of score points by beating the crap out of the other team. It could be something similar to that. But yeah, like I said, the Kickstarter is a great way to kind of put it out there. People can join at different tiers. Like me and my friends, we're going to hop onto the same Kickstarter, and we'll kind of either do the base game or we'll have an expansion of our own, whatever kind of comes out and we think, oh, we'd like that. Because we've done it before with original Dreadball. I started off with the Metabots, and that was on Kickstarter. I gave my friend money to do it, and I got my shiny little models to play with. And it was all right because it was part of a group. We had a club going, and I could just play it there. But yeah, the old kind of process of Kickstarter, then retail is what they've done before. It's what Mantic are good with, and what they're used to. And we're seeing a lot less kind of straight to retail releases.
Yeah. But I think they've also realized by now that doing everything on the Kickstarter doesn't work well either. So to have the retail releases spaced out, and also have I've also seen now with the latest games released, they also have a retailer pledge on the Kickstarter. So those who know that they have a community they can sell the game to can order it via the Kickstarter as well, to be with the early adopters and receive it early as well. So that should be a good option now to cover things.
Yeah, so long as they've got something to kind of keep it going and to release bit by bit later on.
Right. Tom, what do you think about the Champions Play being already in there and as an out of the box experience?
If anything, I'm curious what the championship mode actually means in this case, because I'm not 100%. It could be a number of things. It could be a sort of streamlined or stripped down league mode, but the phrasing is kind of ambiguous with out of the box tournaments with legacy cards. When it says tournaments, does it mean tournaments like in terms of, I don't know, round robin games where somebody wins at the end of like a day-long session, or does it mean tournaments that last a number of sessions, like a league where you improve your guys and acquire new resources and such? What are legacy cards? Because I doubt that they are cards that are supposed to work with old minis. I don't think that's the meaning of legacy they're using here. In fact, I don't entirely know what legacy cards mean here at all.
Yeah, that's the big question now, because this is like
I'm more curious about what is a championship. What is it called again? What is championship play? And so I'm not really able to give any feelings about how I feel about it.
Also, legacy cards could refer to the in-game legacy of the players, or to the game legacy. So do we see different captain upgrades that are references to the past, or are this just in-game or in-universe legacies that come into play here? I mean, for a board game event, this is always a kind of a curiosity out there, because it's like how Allstars, I guess, supposed to be faster than Dreadball. So we are talking about 30 minutes to an hour gameplay, roughly an hour. If you want to make a board game night, playing 3-4 games in a row is a possibility, especially on the weekends, if you have a coming together. So a specific mode to make this like a challenging event and not just a normal coming together would be nice to have, but I'm not sure what to expect from a championship play. Like, is there everyone against everyone, setting up 5 games, and the one with the most points in the end wins? Or is this like the classic Swiss system where you have on a elimination table to fight against people? So yeah, I'm sure. I'm really curious on that
earlier. I wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're keeping the cards fairly close to the chest in this one. They're not revealing too much yet, but what they have revealed kind of builds up excitement, and that's quite good to see.
Yeah, because honestly, the biggest problem with board games in that case, or with those specific board games, I have to say that the more niche ones, is to get people to play with. And for a lot of people out there, it is much easier to come together once a month or once every 2 months to play several games instead of going out once a week to play one game. And a championship, whatever this then is an event style rule set, can help to do this, because when you go out and say, yep, let's make a gaming day, 5-6 games per day, and then it's worth to traveling further away to meet other people just to play a board game, is a thing. So at least in my opinion, for this one. So I'm just so full of curiosity what it actually is, but also see the possibilities to help to get the players together from the game itself already. And we got 7 teams with 5 pre-assembled miniatures, so I guess it's going to be PVC as usual, which is a good quality now, as seen by the Halo game. And we know the 2 teams that are out. These are the Jets and the Juggernauts. So 2 of those 7 were already teased, so 5 more. Dom, what do you think about those 7 teams?
Well, we only know 2, so I can't tell you what I think about the other 5. Although I'm very curious what they are going to be. I'm glad that apparently it obviously is kind of being put together as a standalone sort of boxed game, which, funnily enough, if anybody listened to the previous podcast, it's kind of how I approached Dreadball when I got into 2nd edition. So it's interesting to hear that that's the kind of model they're aiming for this time. So I'm glad to hear that there's apparently 4 teams in the starting box. And we've got Jets and Juggernauts just now, who to nobody's surprise appear to be the fast and nimble boys and the hard-hitting slower dudes. The kind of 2 core archetypes, which arguably mirror the season 1 box of Trontic 29ers and the Green Moon Smackers, if with a little more variety. Despite the abundance of green on the Juggernaut side, we do have a Forge Father there as well, and one of the green guys is a Matsudan, which makes me very happy that Matsudan are still sort of in the picture, because they are my favorite dudes.
We also have a severe lack of trousers on that team.
Oh yeah,
they didn't spend any money on materials. It was just armor, and workout.
Yeah. Armor the important bits, the rest doesn't matter. Evoking the old school strongman wrestler image, if anything. Which is par for the course here. Although, interestingly, at the same time, the Jets appear to have a pretty chunky robot as their, I don't know if it's a captain or leader or like the main dude or something like that. But despite being all, for the most part, apparently humans, although apparently with the hawk, that is a question mark at the end of that. We got a big, chunky, single-wheeled robot in the middle, presumably there to tank the bigger hits and let the others play the game or something like that. So there's some interesting sort of dynamics being established.
So the most important thing about this is now those are pre-made lists. So you got those 5 models per team with no option to switch around, at least for now, as far as we know. And therefore, everyone is a named character with some lore and backstory behind them, which is which I really like. So we got this small lore snippets also on the Mantic blog to describe who they are, why they are famous, and their links into the lore. So which of the names are or do others say some names sound familiar but are still different? So what is the lore connection that we could make out for them now? Dom, you know the most about those things, so you go first this time as well.
I wonder, I will be ignorant to the sort of broader Warpath lore because I only really engage with Dreadball, so feel free to catch me up there. But we know that apparently Wheelie was built by, let me see. Let me double check how this went. Yes, so apparently Wheelie was built by the creator of Barricade, who we will remember as a giant from Dreadball, with a design quite strikingly similar to the Metabots, the transforming robots from OG Dreadball. Apparently he was approached by the creator of Barricade, was approached to build the ultimate Dreadball robot. And Wheelie hasn't apparently been fully tested for Dreadball yet, but there was the insistence to enter him. So, I mean, there's not a lot of similar design language, I would say, in terms of his sort of shape. But there is some of it a little bit in terms of how the sort of head connects to the torso and how the arms and shoulder pads look a little, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. It's got the rounded back behind the kind of optical sensor, with far fewer wheels, because Barricade's got its 3 wheels tricycle setup with 2 kind of big shields either side, whereas Wheelie is a wheel.
As the name suggests. And still, funnily enough, has the tied lowest move score across the cards that we've seen, despite being wheeled. But maybe that's just compensating for his weight or something. There was one other thing. So the Hawk, the guy that apparently there's a question of whether that is a biological creature in armor or if he's an android. Sharp-eyed Dreadball fans will notice his similarities to one Thoth, the famous ref from the Memphis Max pitch introduced in the Magnetar circuit, especially when we take a look at the wings. So I wonder if there's some connection there. And there's also noted that Hawk is similar in appearance to an Asterian Cipher, which I have not engaged with, but they're apparently, I think, units in one of the other games, Dead Zone or whichever.
So the Ciphers are the battle suits in the wider Warpath universe for the Asterians. They are remote controlled by the Asterians pilot to go on the planets to battle there, because the Asterians are a dying race, but not stupid. So they send in remote controlled drones, and those are the Ciphers. So
the Praetorian, I believe, was an Asterian machine. It was an MVP in OG Dreadball as well. So there's some other sort of lore connections here. And finally, on the Jet side, Miguel Van Dien is explicitly noted as growing up at the shadow of Rico Van Dien, a known Dreadball MVP as well. Arguably the second famous Dreadball player in history behind Lucky Logan. But yeah.
So it says.
And I was also intrigued by Susie Slick Connors, former captain of the Void Sirens, who, to the best of my knowledge, has not been mentioned in all Dreadball books. The captain, when captains were introduced in 2nd edition, the Void Siren captain was Wildcard, so presumably Susie may have predated her. But Slick was also a nickname for one Slalaran Vesh, a weird, rare, difficult to find MVP who particularly had the ability to swallow an enemy player and change his stat line as a result, and later regurgitate that player if need be, or after getting hit hard enough. So just the reuse of the nickname was I wonder if it's just we are forgetting about Vesh or if it's a little hiccup here. On the Juggernaut side, I don't recall seeing any sort of recognizable names. Although the note that Suplex is big even for a Hulk sounds mildly terrifying, because I remember the terror that the Hulk in the Hobgoblin team would spread around the pitch when I saw him played. Who else?
Yeah, I don't have a Dreadball Hulk, but I do have a Dead Zone Hulk carrying a massive gun called a heavy energy weapon. Or Hugh Cannon.
I don't have my models prepped, so maybe we'll catch up next time.
Fair. So here he is.
Yeah,
they're chunky boys.
Thing.
Even on a Dreadball pitch, they're still pretty big. They are the biggest. I think they are the biggest thing on the Dreadball pitch that isn't considered a giant.
Exactly.
Which which was sort of nifty, sort of made to work with the mighty rule that the Hulk has. And by just rules by default say that all of the giants have the mighty rule. So he probably isn't a giant purely by some technicality or something like that. Maybe someone appropriate was bribed for it. Nelson from the Juggernauts team is mentioned as appearing first on the Extreme circuit. So it's cool that Extreme is still in the memories of people and being mentioned. What else? There's Whiplash. There's a Forge Father. That's apparently. It's interesting. The Forge Father character, Duke Clutch Sonnerson, is mentioned as being fairly new to Dreadball, and yet he's playing with the awesome off-season mode. So it's something that you can theoretically, specifically aim for, rather than make your way through regular Dreadball before you're invited to play in these matches.
Depending on how rich you are.
Oh, maybe that, indeed.
Yeah, it's connections, who you know instead of what you know.
And then we have Kimura the Wall, who is the Matsudan player, and definitely my immediate favorite for obvious reasons. If anything, one thing I'm curious about is how easy it will be to get extra teams or extra minis, because I would totally make him a Matsudan keeper in regular Dreadball. But yeah, otherwise, no real big connections that I was able to spot here. It looks like they're mostly spread around the Jets just now. We'll see what the other teams are.
That's an interesting point, because if we compare this to the other recent game edition from Mantic, which is Halo Flashpoint, they made the initial teams available as special resin characters. That could be for event play prices, or also to order individually in the shop for painters. So specifically aiming for painters, you get the more detailed material in resin. So for those who just don't want to play but want to paint their models. And this could be a possibility into here, because old pose models as a price are always a nice addition to the game.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe you are a lucky one, and we get the Matsudan, more of them in some way later on.
I'd imagine it will be more than likely that one of the big guys, the leaders, will be released in that fashion. But even if there's some weird option to get a hold of individual teams later on, then again, if Juggernauts are part of the starter box, then it's unlikely they'll be made available on their own either. Never mind. That's me purely theorizing here. That's
speculation at this point.
There. Yeah.
I mean, it's dependent. There are a lot of possibilities out there, and depending on which way they go with the game. But I guess it's we're going to see. Might be the 4 teams in the initial Kickstarter starter box, with a smaller one with 2 teams released later on, with something we have also seen with Halo, where there are 2 starter boxes available, one big one with everything and multiple teams inside to go when you like the game, you want to play it, you go all in, buy the big one, have multiple options. Or you are not sure and lightweight, not a lot of money to spend, so you go with the smaller box just to try it out, not much wasted if you don't like it in that case. So it could be that at least 2 of the 4 teams are available outside the boxes later on.
No, exactly. There might be standalone to release later. It is unusual to have 7 initial teams for the Kickstarter, but then I can kind of see where they're coming from, because you got the first box with the 4 teams and then 3 expansions. If it was 4 expansions, it might be a bit too spendy for some people who just want to go all in on it. They might be put off by the price tag, so they've reduced it. And like I said before, it gives scope for further releases later down the line.
I want to say, I cannot find this now. I want to say that the aim was for 10 teams sort of as the target, as the ultimate target. And the Kickstarter starts with the biggest pledge will be the 7 that are ready to go now. Am I making this up? Did I dream this, or does that
it sounds accurate.
Ring any bells for you?
I mean, it sounds right, so I don't know.
Cannot find a reference to it now, so I'm not 100% sure that that's what's happening. Then again, 7 is a solid number to pick from still for a standalone thing.
Yeah, we may get a surprise. It might be. I mean, a Kickstarter need things to unlock with pledges, and that's how Kickstarter works. So it might be just to have it somewhere there. I just find a niche announcement of 7 teams. Yeah, but if they have pledges and stretch goals to unlock, I guess we going the 10 teams in total sounds reasonable. In that regard. Yeah, but this is also something for the campaign, because I guess we going to see the usual acrylic tokens, acrylic game aids, and things like that. I guess also premium arena boards will be part of the Kickstarter. I think.
Yeah, I'm mildly surprised that at the sort of different component levels. But I think that I seem to recall that's similar to the approach in first edition and Extreme, where the Extreme box, for example, would come with mostly cardboard components, and later on there were optional deluxe variants of those components. Second edition Dreadball Kickstarter and later Retail Dreadball all had nice plastic or something, acrylic probably, things like action tokens and such. So I'm surprised that they're sort of going back to these simpler ones, although that was also the case for Overdrive, from what I recall. I'm just not super happy for that. But at the same time, I probably will go for the deluxe components, knowing myself. But that's a different story.
Yeah. It's the usual thing. They make them for a reason, and they know their target audience in that regard. So yeah, but I think it also depends on how much you expect yourself to play, because when you know you're going to play a lot, you want to have the acrylic tokens or premium material add-ons as well. So
exactly, and with acrylic tokens, they were a classic kind of participation prize for tournaments and organized play. So there is scope for that. I don't mind a cardboard token myself, but the acrylic tokens just have that little bit of extra to them.
I'm wondering how much tokens the game will actually require, because as we've heard from other material that has come out since and seen in images, all the players on the pitch are now represented by cards with their stat lines and abilities that have a ready and an activated side. So you simply flip them once you activate them. And from what I recall hearing, there is a 6th card that represents you, the coach, that you can basically flip to have one of the players activate again, or do something else. I think you can spend that coach activation on other effects as well, which is an interesting twist to the matter. And I think action cards are still a thing, maybe. Either that or each team gets a deck of its own. No, I think it's from what I recall, there was an image suggesting that because rather than having home and visitors, we have favorites and underdogs. And I believe the favorites and the underdogs get a different action deck to work with or something like that.
Yeah, from what I can see, yeah, definitely. It might be that it's a kind of home or visitor situation, but then it could carry over to league play and that kind of thing. But it is interesting. We'll have to find out more when more details come out.
Yeah.
So one interesting point that now crosses my mind is regarding the models again, because we have now, for those listening and not watching, there is a preview on the Mantic homepage about with some, how to say, pre-manufactured models, because those are definitely not the final ones, because they show them early off, and just because they use MDF bases, which you can see like by the edges. Those are not plastic ones. These are, because they don't have this smooth, they have this rough surface on the edges, which indicates this being MDF. So I guess that shows some 3D printed or pre-release test models that they're painting up for the pictures with some bases. We also got the classic Dreadball ball without the backs, just the flat one.
Yes, really happy to see the first edition ball back.
Yeah,
Mantic knows what happened. Mantic knows what was good.
So at least they learn from mistakes. So in that regard, but there's also the question rises if we get different bases in the final. So we definitely get different bases. One, so it could be that the final models comes with the base attached, like we've seen with other PVC models. And that's why they used here this black painted MDF to indicate that this isn't this won't be having the clear hex spaces anymore. So I'm not sure if I like this or not, because I would really prefer to have the clear hex spaces again. But on the other side,
sorry.
No, I'm also that kind of person who just cuts off models and put them on different bases anyway if I need to. So it's
really there has been sort of I don't want to say uproar, but there's been at least a few responses that I've seen that were concerned about the round bases shown in the images.
Yeah.
I mean, these are obviously like a pre-release and not final products, so I'm not sure if there's much to worry about. And it's not like a hex-based game can't work with round bases. It just makes the hex bases would make seeing line of sight and facing that much clearer. I'll be surprised if they don't go back to hex bases, to be quite honest. I'd be most sort of concerned or upset if facing was no longer a factor. But I think references to threatening are showed up in a few cards, so I would assume that it's still a thing. Maybe they're going for a smoother, slick presentation on the promo pages, but in fact, I remember early on some of my friends sort of insisted that Dreadball can be perfectly playable without using the clear hex bases. They are just like an extra sort of support tool. With a lot of newer bases, and especially the ones that were leaning over heavily in particular directions, that's not really true anymore. But I'm hoping that it will be either a matter of it being just smooth promo pictures, or the fact that they're playable. You don't need the hex bases, but if you want them, here they are. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and I can see why people are kind of concerned about it, because it's billed as a kind of new game for new players and lovers of Dreadball. The facing mechanic is essential to Dreadball. However, some new players might kind of struggle with it initially. So that was the concern. But the fact that these are MDF bases on the image, the main promo image, it's very viable that they'll just have hex bases, and hopefully the models will be facing the proper way. But yeah, we'll have to
but-
wait and see what their models come out like, because we've got those initial promo models. The rest of the news materials are using renders, like 3D renders.
Yeah, I mean, so this is just me, but I don't like the 3D renders they use at the moment for the models. Just comparing. So for everyone listening, this is you can see the pictures all from the recent Mantic blog post about the game. For those watching, like showing off the Juggernaut with picture pre-support with the digital renders. Then we got the artwork of that Juggernaut on the preview box and a preview model. And I think the artwork translates better to the model, with the digital render shown is a little bit off. It might just be that the colors or the green colors with the muscular bodies don't render well. But in that regard, so I think the final model looks better than I would have expected from the render. And it fits the artwork. So, but this is just me, and I'm a little bit odd anyway.
Yeah, exactly. The 3D renders do kind of lean themselves into the concept art side of designing something, because you have that initial idea and then you refine it. But yeah, I think the 3D renders are the kind of final design before printing. And that's why the kind of colors are off, because it's more of a concept rather than an in-universe thing. It's because the lighting is a bit weird. It's like when you're in front of a green screen and you pretend to be at the beach, but you're in your dark bedroom. It just looks a bit odd at the moment. And hopefully when we see the models in person or in action or actual video footage or photos, then it'll kind of boost confidence in it. But at the moment, we've got these 3D renders and they're okay for now.
Yeah. Okay, then let's go to the biggest reveal. Last week, we got a famous name on who wrote or designed, is involved with the design for Dreadball Allstars, and this is Travis Johnson. That's a big name for Mantic, and I mean, they know let's so for those not familiar with the history of Mantic Games, Mantic Game was started by Ronnie Renton, who worked as a sales manager, I think, at Games Workshop in the early days. And so all those people who worked around the same time at that company, they know each other at least to some point. And now they also got Alessio Cavatore in as a former Games Workshop designer and freelancer to work for their game design. And of course, he knows Travis Johnson as well. So, and as Travis now is in retirement, Alessio convinced him to help out or get in to design another game. So this is a rather big reveal, because it also, I mean, Travis has a certain history on game design. When we look at his page, the first game he officially designed by his trade was the Warhammer Armies books, followed by the Blood Bowl first edition in 1986. So that's quite some history in here. And the latest addition to his design space were, of course, the last one for Blood Bowl was the Dungeon Bowl expansion in 2021. Then he got Valo and Fortitude for the Berry Brothers, which is a Napoleonic war game. Also has his name on the Black Powder for Warlord games. And the Heroes of Might and Magic Battles game of 2025, which was something I didn't know that he was involved with. So, and in 2027, as official release date, it's Dreadball Allstars. So even after retirement, he's quite busy. And yeah, I'm not sure what to think about as from a game design perspective, but I can see that a big name for Mantic on the box as a designer can draw a lot of people in who don't know Mantic games, who don't know Dreadball, but who know who Jervis Johnson is like the mastermind behind the sports tabletop war games or the miniature war game. So this could be a big factor to get people in, starting with Dreadball Allstars. What do we? How do we? Or better said, how do we feel about this?
Well, bringing in someone who helped design the original Blood Bowl is a big thing, because a lot of people rant and rave about Blood Bowl. It's one of their favorites, and one of their favorite spin-offs from the main Warhammer universe. And to bring that kind of name to a project like this is good. It's going to build that kind of hype about it as well. He's even won awards for making games rules. So there are high hopes for this. It'll be interesting to see what he's brought to the table and if he's kind of tweaked around with the Dreadball system as it is, or if he's just added on to things. I'm quite optimistic with it.
Optimistic.
I found it a kind of interesting move and potentially double-edged sword. While I'm unfamiliar with Blood Bowl itself, I was under the impression that the people who pick up Dreadball after trying Blood Bowl discover how much apparently faster Dreadball is and more dynamic, and how much more playable that makes the game. So bringing the guy responsible for that other game, that slow game, was kind of like, are you sure that's what you want? However, from the one interview post-reveal that I've seen with him, it looks like he definitely knows what he's doing. That is to say, he knows how different Dreadball is from Blood Bowl and how to play to its strengths, I should say. So it looks like it's not a matter of bringing a particular, designer approach. It's more about bringing the designer pedigree on board, which cannot be a bad thing as far as I can tell. I think it's everything I've heard so far, apart from the fact that it's its own game rather than being either Dreadball 3rd edition or being sort of backwards compatible. Everything else I've heard so far sounds like either a good idea or at least an interesting idea that I'm excited to try out. So this doesn't sound like a bad development, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, it's also with game designers in previous work they have done. There's always the big question: how much influence did the management had on things, and which was really the game designers edition? In this case, I don't know how much Ronnie said. This must be in. This must be in. This must be there, and he need to work around it, and how much freedom he got into designing it, or if he was able to come up with suggestions and say, I would like to do this, and they said, okay, fine, if you think that works, let's try it. So, and this is always a process of game designing, when you say something that sounds like a good idea until you first test it in an actual gameplay, and then it's a terrible idea and doesn't work out. So and obviously in the one interview that we have seen that he has given on the Bonehead YouTube channel, said that playtesting was done and was a very important step to sort out what's working and what's not. So I'm at least confident in that regard that they have tested the game, they have tested the rules, they know that it's working. And even if those testers might be a little bit biased regarding the gameplay itself, which always happens, at least it was tested, so they know that it's working and not just in theory in that kind of thing. So I'm also optimistic in this here. From the gameplay, what I have seen or what they were talking about is that we're using alt activation, as I've already mentioned, and that's
Sorry, what do you mean?
Alternate a unit model activation. So move one
Right.
model.
Yes.
That's how to say, there's in the wider wargaming world, there's always the controversy going out, what's the best activation-based system? And because they're the turn-based ones, or with alternating game turns, the ones with a very strict system, the others are more relaxed, which allow interactions or player acting in the opponent's face and things like that. You have a game system with phases, where you have random phases, random activations, strict alt activations. So there are a lot of possibilities out there, and in my opinion, there isn't a best one, but just some are more suited for a certain type of gameplay than others. Like,
No, exactly.
none of those is faster than the other. If you build it right, all of them are fast. Activation-based systems can be actually much, much slower than turn-based ones, depending on how much interaction is there between the players. Like Kings of War is an absolute strict alternating turn-based game where there's no action, or there's no reaction from the passive player during your turn. Plays very, very fast because of that, while Firefight, as an activation-based game, is, although it is much smaller than Kings of War, not much faster. So there's that. So just because it's an activation-based game doesn't mean it's fast. You have to build into that with the gameplay and with the model. But it's more dynamic, which, because you only have 5 players on there, could play to its advantage in that regard, because it's like really something. So 5 players, 6 activations, because 1 for the coach, and then the option for double activation. So I guess this gets into a much more dynamic. So much more dynamic. Dreadball is already a very dynamic game in that regard. So it could be leading into them being even more dynamic. Kind of could make it more casual, because alt activation is very hard to plan ahead, because things can switch around very fast and very quickly. So could be that this leans into be a much more casual game than Dreadball is, much more beer and pretzel. Or so the Champions mode could also be just a drinking game. We don't know.
So there were a couple of years back on the Dreadball Fanatics Facebook page, there was a bit of a conversation about alternate activation, and I played, I want to say, about 2 games with a rule set adapted like that. And what you said about less planning ahead definitely sort of came to mind. It was very much moment to moment. You could theoretically plan ahead, but at that point you're playing 4D chess. Because you have to take a lot more into account happening before you get to the end of your plan. And at the time, I quite enjoyed that. I would often find myself and my opponents often, trying to plan out their entire rush. And that's taking a good chunk of the game, rather than executing those plans and then having to adjust those plans on the fly when dice rolls weren't going how you intended. This way, I feel there's a lot less weight on the planning. There's a lot more of moment to moment dealing with the next emergency and seizing the next opportunity. So I don't think that's a bad idea, and I feel alternate activation wouldn't really be amiss in old school Dreadball. If anything, it's not a bad direction to go in.
Yeah, maybe. So this could be, I mean, this is definitely a testing ground for a further Dreadball edition anyway. So depending on how well it's received and how the rules play out, also with how rules play out in with larger teams and more models, because like I said, with less models, activation-based system work really well. We also see this in Dead Zone, we see this in Halo. In Firefight, we have a per unit activation, not a model activation. So, but it also gets slower already. While Epic Warbar, for example, as a mass battle game, uses a different activation-based system. You still have your alternating gameplay, but it's still you have phases to move and shoot and things to break this up. And because the one factor that definitely slows a game down is the more often you have to touch a model. If you touch a model only once in your phase or your rush, it's pretty fast. But if you have to touch it twice or 3 times to move things around, this slows down. Also, the more dice you have to roll, that slows the game down. Everything else, the decision-making process, this is on the player. So if someone is faster with decision-making, he plays faster. One that needs to think about plays slower. But so this is nothing the game design can influence. But the game has a huge impact on how often do you need to move a model around, how many dice you need to roll, things like that can slow a game down. So, and also a game that doesn't allow much planning ahead also plays faster, because there's no point in thinking a long time to make your decision, because it doesn't matter anyway. And the first your first thought might be always the best one. So let's see. Right.
There's also, I don't know how that will be exactly handled, but I remember then we tried that when we tried playing regular Dreadball with alternate activations, that also removed a lot of the weight from losing the ball being a rush over. Basically, that meant that if you do lose the ball, your turn was going to be over anyway, unless you sort of take into account that you could like play a card before or after your activation, and that wouldn't end it. So technically, you'd like lose the chance to play action cards at that point. But that weight was a lot smaller, which is interesting because I remember feeling that Dreadball's one of the Dreadball's big bold moves was the fact that losing control of the ball ends your rush immediately. So that potentially going away seems like it big opens the door to the question of how much Dreadball is in this Dreadball. But at the same time, maybe that makes it a little smoother. Maybe that's not that big of a loss.
Yeah, we have to see how this works out. It's also like
we'll need to see the actual rules.
Yeah. Also, the option for a double activation is a thing. So it's not a strict alternating activation system. It has some flexibility around that. Also, like the coach has its activation. So it really depends on when you can activate certain abilities and think. Does the coach always being the last activation? Can your coach ability be activated through the game to compensate bad rolls and things like that? So this is something that might be interesting, which also kind of remembers on Dead Zone, where you have this command dice that you can use on special order things to break up or compensate for bad dice rolls or break up the activation order. So it very much already feels like this typical Mantic game. So they have definitely thought about what they're doing and how that it feels right. So to catch the immersion of the game. I'm very positive about these things working out, but I definitely want to see the final rules and at least make a test game to judge it and if it's really how it really goes. And also being like a testing ground for third edition Dreadball to develop into it, because the reference I have seen, or that it's for me is most familiar, is this being the Blitz Bowl to Blood Bowl is Dreadball Allstars to Dreadball. Just that in this case, the Blitz Bowl version was released before the new Dreadball version comes out and not after. So being the smaller game, being faster, less models, easier to start, things like that, but with a little bit of different gameplay. So it could be that they are planning ahead already to keep Dreadball as it is, just to have the different game settings. So for those who like the more complex one, the more or less longer one, a less dynamic one, as far as Dreadball goes. Okay. Sorry.
It's interesting because, correct me if I'm wrong, but to the best of my knowledge, there hasn't been any official word about Allstars being the prototype, shall we say, or the testing ground for 3rd edition Dreadball. And to be clear, I very much hope it is. But I feel like it might still be a while for us to see any fruit of that, but it'd be interesting to see. That said, I can't say I won't try porting Allstars rules into old school Dreadball, or porting old teams into new Dreadball in some shape or form. It would be interesting because while there's obviously significant mechanical differences, I feel like translating those will not be as difficult as one may suspect. I think there's some fun space for homebrew designers to play around and see what they can achieve before official word comes down, assuming one does come down.
It will be interesting to adapt, especially because they've switched from D6s to D8s.
That's a big one.
There's rumor that the exploding 8s might not happen. We're not sure about that.
I thought they were happening. I was under the impression they were happening. It might be,
yeah. The stat blocks themselves, the numbers on each card refer to the number of dice rolled.
Yeah, variable dice pools rather than sort of standard start with 3 and take your modifiers. No, exactly. I'm a big fan of dice pools in general. To be honest, a higher number is better across the entire stat line is the right choice, if anything. It's not like 3+ being better than 5+ is a difficult concept to wrap your head around. But for anyone sort of, especially for someone who isn't a hobby gamer who coming into Dreadball, that's always something to wrap your head around first. This makes it a lot more intuitive.
I think either way is fine for new players as long as you don't mix it. Like having one start that you need to roll low and one you need to roll high, and then it gets confusing for new people. So this is the thing. So, but yeah, I mean, there's now a theme emerging because Mantic has moved all their sci-fi games to D8, while their fantasy game with D6s. So it might be a reason behind this one to have a clear separation between those stones. Everything in Warpath is using the similar mechanics, the same dice, so that an easier transition between the game. If you play Dead Zone, you already have the dice to play Dreadball.
Yeah. Hopefully there's no kind of custom dice, because that was kind of one of my bugbears with Blood Bowl, is that you can get a starter team, you can like I did with the Dwarves, and you'd have to source your own dice. And that was a theme with a lot of GW spin-off games. And some of them did it really well. Others, it's just shoehorning in dice for the sake of it. My opinion, anyway. But yeah, you could substitute a normal D6 for whatever symbols you roll. But for ease of use, you just need the custom dice. And then finding those dice can be a pain, like with Necromunda. It took me ages to find them for a little local league, and I stopped playing because I moved. So it might be a case of a custom die for scattering the ball, but I hope they don't, because you could easily say, right, we've got a D8. 1, your opponent chooses which way it goes. 8, you choose where it goes. Everything else, you follow the little arrow chart.
Yeah, I think especially for scatter dice and those kind of things, D8s are much more usable than D6s.
The thing is, it's a hex-based system.
Yeah,
so
not on a
there are-
hex pitch.
Yeah, but it's really like if you have this, as you said, you mentioned you have two more options to do things with that.
Yeah.
So this is like what it helps with a D6. You know, it's one of the one that there's no choosing possibility, nothing that goes into your direction, which you can influence things like that. So that's the point. When you have a D6 and you need something like that, you need to add rerolls or modifications to it in that regard. With D8s, it gets much simpler to have more options in, even if there's only just 6 directions to choose from. But with 2 more dice results, you can add some extra spice to the game that adds things to it, that add more fun and also more.
Honestly, if they include a regular D6 as the scatter die, I'm sure we can forgive them.
I mean, it's
we can cope with that as well.
Yeah, it's boring,
not-
but it's okay.
It's not on the list of contents yet, but
Yeah, there was no D6 on any of the images. It was all little piles of D8s.
it's all D8s.
And they are regular D8s. So, and from what I recall hearing, it's 5-up is a success.
Yeah.
And it looks like you need 2 successes to win the test, and 4 is a triumph, as they are calling what we would probably known as doubling before. So like I was expecting 5-up being this. No, I wasn't expecting 5-up, but I'm not surprised that 5-up is the threshold. I was mildly surprised that you need 2. I wonder if there'll be abilities where someone only needs 1 or like needs 1 less for a triumph or something like that. And then, I'm seeing characters with like a 2 in some of the skills, meaning they roll 2 dice. So which is why I think exploding 8s are still a thing, because otherwise the characters with a stat under 4 cannot possibly achieve a triumph, which would be a little sad to just outright hard deny that, as it were.
No, exactly. And the exploding 6s, exploding 8s have been a part of the system for years now.
That was my impression as well, yeah.
And it's just an integral part, and it's what makes it kind of flow and makes it more exciting, because you can turn those 2 dice into a triumphant success.
Yeah. It looks like rolls are on their way out as well. We don't have guards, jacks, and strikers anymore. That's not indicated anywhere on the card.
The only reference
everyone
I've seen is keeper.
Yeah, but that appears to be listed straight up as an ability, essentially. Which technically it is an ability in Old School Dreadball as well. But that's if you're a keeper, you're still a guard, arguably. But I can see that every card has 1 stat highlighted, so I wonder if that's how they're doing, where every single player is good at 1 particular thing and maybe gets an extra. I don't think it's an extra die, because in that case, just make the number bigger. So I wonder if it's like a free reroll or something, or a. I don't know if you want to mess with the success threshold, that's something to find out when more information comes out as well. I'm curious. Stat line is different as well. It looks like they're all verbs now, and speed is gone entirely. Technically, I mean, most of them are gone. It's no longer agility. It's dodge. It's no longer skill. It's strike. And interestingly, strike is separate from throw and from keep, which is a new addition by the looks of it. Which and I think some of the abilities suggest that there is some ability to like intercept a throw or make it more problematic. The keeper ability in particular, if I manage, the text isn't of very high fidelity here, so it's not very easy to read. But keeper on Kimura the Wall from the Juggernauts. It looks like it reads something along the lines of remove 1 dice from an opposing player when an opposing player makes a strike.
Yes.
If they are threatened by Kimura the Wall. If Kimura the Wall is standing in the strike hex, take away 2 dice instead of 1. So one thing, it's interesting that now standing on the strike hex does something it didn't before. But as we've seen from the images, the pitch is smaller, it's narrower and shorter, and it looks like the strike zones are literally the strike hex and 3 hexes in front of it. So it looks like if you're basically, if the strike zones still work as they did, that is to say you have to enter it to make a strike, then it would suggest that straight up standing on the strike hex now effectively threatens whoever is striking, which is which makes that sort of that much more of an interesting proposition, shall we say?
Yeah, and I think in that sense they would kind of simplify the points system. It might be 1 and 2 points respectively for front and back hexes, strike zones.
I wonder.
Because before you stand them just in front of the strike hex to block the direct line of sight from the bonus strike hex.
Yeah, to block it off entirely, you had to castle, as we'd call it, to put 3 guys right in front.
Yeah, that's the classic Z tactic for defense.
Yeah.
So also, but dynamic scoring is still a thing. If I look at the board correctly,
it does look like
it's still the push me pull you system.
So
there's one close-up of the pitch in one of the images on the Kickstarter page that shows a 1 in one of the front strike zones. So that suggests that we're still scoring just 1s there. In fact, I'm not sure bonus. It doesn't look like there's no distance bonus, so there's no scoring from 4 hexes away for an extra point. But I think a triumph on a strike might be getting extra points, if I recall correctly.
Possibly. Yeah, because it doesn't look like they have fan checks as such.
Yeah, I don't think that ever came up.
No.
I wonder. I would be a little sad to lose the fans. I think that was a cool element.
Yeah, but I think the fans are already on this side because it's Allstars. It is popular players playing the game. But yeah, there is a similar thing with Overdrive because some of them are kind of zone-based. You have to King of the Hill style stand in the zone. If you go on the bonus zone, you get 2 points instead of 1. So that it could be that the triumphant goal kind of replaces that.
I wonder if we'll ever roll the move stat as well, because now that all stats are sort of in line as the bigger being better, you technically could kind of slide the speed stat into it in a way. Sprint is no longer sprint is a stat as well. It no longer just means moving double your move by the sound of it.
Yeah, plus something.
I wonder what that will mean.
Yeah, if I seem that right, it's like some of the models like move 5 and sprint is a +3, or move 4 with sprint a +2, with really having move 4 and sprint +4. So yeah, I mean, it's we have pre-made teams. They are all named characters, so that there need to be possibilities to make them unique, and also a unique playstyle among those teams, because they all need to feel different, because otherwise if you have 2 teams, they're just playing the same but with different models, it gets boring.
Exactly.
That small amount. So the different stats and also the more stats on strike and keep help that. Also the differential models for each other. So I think this is this might have been done to help to get the uniqueness to the specific teams with those different stats in there, without going too deeply into special rules or special abilities to make them more outstanding out there.
Exactly. Yeah, you can be making things different and unique, but sort of front to the player. It's all easy to refer, rather than having to remember different roll bonuses or different situational modifiers. The fact that strike and throw are separate stats now might be replacing the fact that all strikes are made at -1 or something like that, just for ease. And in fact, for some players, they are better at scoring strikes than they are at throwing, by the looks of it. So that sort of adds an interesting sort of new dimension, shall we say, to that entire relation between throwing and striking.
Yeah,
I'm very curious what keep actually does. Like when do you actually use it? How does that work?
It might be that you can snag the ball when it's thrown at the strike zone, because you're going to be standing on the strike hex, you could goal hex, as it were. It might be that you can grab the ball when it's been attempted to be thrown and they've whiffed it.
I wonder if it might make strikes a straight up opposed test if there's someone contesting it.
Yeah, that is a good point.
Which honestly sounds pretty hype, if you ask me.
Yeah. Yeah, it adds a bit more pressure to it. I'd be quite interested to see what the other teams are as well, because we've got the first two. There are 5 left in the ether somewhere. They've been created, but we don't know what they are. I can definitely see a weird alien team, just sci-fi shenanigans, weird alien creatures just playing Dreadball for no reason other than to screw with the other people.
That sounds like, with that sort of approach, that sounds like a prime place for the Nameless, who are already in OG Dreadball, are a mix of different weird creatures that are sort of lumped into one bucket by the galactic co-prosperity spew, who just doesn't care enough to differentiate between them.
Rebs.
And Rebs as well. They are a whole band of misfits in that. And on top of that, arguably the Chorus, who I'm under the impression are one of the least played teams in OG Dreadball.
They definitely are. Yeah, I have Chorus. I tried to.
Yeah,
their
poor movement and reliance on tests for using their portals is a tall ask, from what I understand. But they are, their lore implies that they are not even from the galaxy, I think, not even from our galaxy, and their entire sort of social and moral understanding of the world is entirely alien. So they are here as that completely random element, and yet they still play ball. So I think for this sort of out there team, Chorus would be an interesting pick. But yeah, we've got the basics out of the way, kind of. We've got the fast guys, we've got the big guys, and I'm curious about what's next. Give me the unique stuff about Dreadball. Give me the weird stuff. Give me the Lorana, the phasers. I wonder if we'll get any of those.
I mean,
we probably won't get an entire team of phasers because they are mixed teams of star players. But will we get a team
still have
with a phaser and some other weird guys or something like that?
Because I think the Jets look to be like 3 humans with 2 special things in there. The Juggernauts are 3 Agorans, Marauders, Orcs, so from the same planet with 2 special things in there.
Apparently, who have not been part of Dreadball before. No, there's a Hulk. I think one of them is an ogre. One of them is definitely an orc.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah.
Father and a Matsudan.
As far as I know, there's 2 orcs, a Hulk, and then a Forge Father and a Matsudan.
Yeah. At least from the blog description, it reads like there are two of them are orcs. One is the Marauder.
No, I'm under the impression, because I remember someone actually commenting about one of the characters being an orc that doesn't look like an orc, and they were corrected to state that that's an ogre, because there's ogres in Dreadball now. And I think that's referring to Nelson, who in the blurb that's been recently released is not. No, I lie. Nelson has a note massive even for an orc.
Yep.
So now we had some comments about the proofreading of this, so maybe this will still get corrected.
Maybe, yeah, but we have to be careful, because an orc, for mixing up terms now, because like the Hulk, the orc, and some of the goblins, they are different species from the same planet. Yeah, so they're all Orans. Coming from the same planet but being different species. So it could be that this ogre is also from the same planet.
I think someone was playing 2 MVPs from OG Dreadball. Buzzcut and Grak are ogres as well.
Yeah. Space
Although those two characters are specifically not painted with green flesh.
Yeah.
So I wonder if we
Yeah, that's the
indeed
main distinction. They are more kind of tanned human skin tone rather than green skin.
Well, never mind. But the big question is, we've got the fast guys, we've got the big guys. What else?
So my point actually was about when we have to have 3 or similar species and 2 exotic ones per team. It makes it possible that the other themes that we get have a similar theme in there, like 3 Adalorana plus 2 different things in that regard. So, or 3 Kalishi Asterians with something else in there. So in that regard. But it's also like what there's so many. My Dreadball has a lot of species and teams out there, and a lot of them would be cool to get in there or get them back. So obviously a Kalishi team would be a way to go. So, or Hobgoblins, Reps, Sphere.
Definitely, the Sphere, the fish people.
Yeah.
I can definitely see a robot team as well.
Yes,
Metabots.
I was about to say.
I'd love to see some Neobots and maybe Mechanites.
I wonder. It's hard to sort of distinguish a Mechanite in Allstars in particular, because the whole approach of the Mechanite team was you build them from scratch yourself. But you can still theme one if you bring a guy built out of various junk and all mismatched parts. I'm sure.
That might be one of the single kind of side players of the team. It could be headed up by either Neobots or Metabots.
I wonder.
Trudvans could be an interesting one.
Oh yeah, I wonder who you'd even pair them up with.
Yeah,
I wonder if there's the other thing I was wondering if I wonder if there's space for repeats. As in, like, I know that from what I recall, briefly seeing some announcements, I'm under the impression that the Matsudan in Dead Zone are part of the Asterian faction, so there is some alliance happening. So if there is an Asterian team, will we see a Matsudan on their team as well, despite there already being one in the Juggernauts?
Yeah,
and similarly, I'm curious about a robot team, especially this is the Neobots theoretically. If any of their rules sort of carry over, their whole thing was being linked and working as like one mind. Throwing one Neobot into a team kind of misses the purpose. But if there maybe is a team headed by 3 Neobots and then 2 other robots for other purposes that are not linked with them or something like that, I don't know. There's OG Dreadball offers Dreadball lore offers a lot of space to play around with, so I'm sure there's some interesting mixes. I was wondering about what you mentioned. The Judwan team might be an interesting sort of starter point. Like, do you pair them with a honorable Matsudan, or do you pair them up with the pacifist Adalorana, or do you in fact make a pacifist team of Jadwan, Adalorana, and the one guy that is willing to punch people, the Matsudan, or something like that?
Yeah, they need one bit of muscle, don't they?
Yeah.
The rest of them, just reach over, put the ball in the goal. You can just punch face. Yeah, good.
Yeah. So the biggest question that is always out there, and I know the answer is no, but would we think the Martians make a return?
That's, I think, in an out-of-universe case, I think highly unlikely. Although I'm curious if they'll pick up some other weird IP, because they had like first edition Dreadball had like weird cameos from like characters from Penny Arcade and Judge Dredd, and then those licenses, of course, expired before second edition. So, but for whatever reason, we still got rules for the Martian team. So I don't know if they had like a sliver of a license to do that or got permission specifically for that. Or if that was just done while Mars Attacks was still like in production or in retail for like the last month or something like that. But I'm curious, even if those all are gone, I wonder if they'll pick up something else weird.
It might be a case. It's just the whole licensing thing. They've slipped out. They've kind of let that lie. The question is, will they have a Worms team?
Oh, Worms in like power armor.
Yeah, like a legally distinct Earthworm Jim.
Or that. Or you go for some weird actual worm themed characters. Yeah.
Because they've got that. They've got Walking Dead, which I can't really see working with Dreadball. That's
Do they still have Hellboy? The board game is still up.
Yeah. They still got that. It could be possible they have a Spartan team.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Spartan and Elites.
See, I wouldn't be too surprised by that, but that also, like, that is a big IP. I feel that's a big and still, I don't want to say current IP, but it's still relevant enough that it might be difficult to get them to take part
as
in
far
other
as
stuff.
I know, they try to keep everything from the Halo IP as separate as possible from their own IP, simply to have a clean cut on which things go where. But on the other hand, like releasing a Spartan team, but for Halo, like this is a special prize or a special event back is a Spartan Dreadball team just released for Halo, so that things are clear, but you can use them in Dreadball if you ever have to get this. So a sports themed Spartans could be a nice touch for that kind of game. So to overlap and still keep things separate. Like we got the Martian rules for second edition as well, despite the models not being there anymore. It's a nice touch. So maybe. So I see the chance for a possibility there.
On the other hand, if not getting a weird IP guests means more Dreadball in Dreadball, I'm all for it, to be quite honest.
Exactly. They've got enough teams to pick from. But guest cameos are always welcome. Blaine, for a start, he drifts in and out from Dead Zone to Warpath to Dreadball and back again.
I'd be surprised if we don't get some form of Blaine in this one.
Yeah, and you always get some form of Ronnie as well.
Oh, yeah.
It's like self-inserted somewhere. You got Zombie Ronnie in The Walking Dead.
Ronnie the part. So that would be an interesting all-star team to add to, like having Blaine as the lead guy, a Ronnie equivalent as well there, and maybe a Jervis and an Alessio somewhere.
I was about to say, get Jervis in the game. That's what needs to happen. Like if we're doing cameos, that's the number one cameo we need in there. Just put the designer team as a team.
Why wouldn't you?
It's all stars anyway, so it's like first thought. Put the all stars in there. Get your own team in. Could be that. So for more than cameos that are possible, that would be a very nice one.
You know what I realized? There's one glaring omission that I am sad to see go. I don't see a ref anywhere on the pitch in the pictures. And I wonder if fouls are even a thing. And if they aren't, I'm going to be a little bit sad. Because it's kind of like the game is still the game. I remember there was at least one voice quite critical looking at the promos and saying this is no longer Dreadball. I admittedly, I don't think the D6 Dreadball makes and such, and although they made good points about like league mode being the thing that kept Dreadball alive, and I am inclined to agree that league mode is really where Dreadball truly shines, as fun as it is in one-offs. At the same time, I think the hex pitch and the sport in principle, even when played with D8s and slightly different mechanics, is still Dreadball. But if we're losing mechanics related to fans, and if we're losing fouls in the ref, we're losing the little bits that kind of that were the little details that grabbed me in the first place, that made me think that, okay, we are paying attention to the fact that in universe this is a sport and all that entails, that being the audience and the fact that there are illegal plays that you technically can still do, but you will be penalized for them. You can still, get an advantage that way by doing something that you're not supposed to be doing. If that is out of the window, I'll be a little bit sad that sort of side of Dreadball is going by the wayside.
No, exactly. And it is kind of built on that. I think that's part of why Extreme didn't really take off as such, because it's just the Extreme version. It's the underground version. So it's going to be cheaty. It's going to be illegal, definitely.
Yeah, no one's paying attention to the rules at that point.
Yeah, everyone's just out to murder each other. So with explosions.
Yeah. Then again, Extreme was doing some interesting things with the fans still, because the fan check mechanic was a little different, which I'm not sure it needed, but it was cool. Where you would roll your pips at the end of every rush to see if you get anything. Which, if anything, it was an interesting option to make sure that you have a decent chance at keeping getting stuff, that you don't have to break a threshold. There's always a chance you'll get something. Even if you only have one pip at the end of the rush, you can roll and get something out of that. And I think the Extreme expansion introduced fans as figures that might wander onto the pitch, which was cool, that you then had options to either smack the fan out of the way or just spend an action giving them an autograph. And
as part of the event deck.
Yeah, so I think those were just straight up fan rules. In the Extreme expansion. But yeah, the point being, there's some cool design space there that may not be present in this version, and I'll be a little sad if it isn't.
Yeah, so let's see. Maybe we get some more information on that one, because that would really be interesting on how far it gets into the, I don't want to say brutal side, but in the less serious gameplay side. Like either be some events, some fans, some kind of fouls or hard gameplay. I mean, if it's an entry-level game, I see why they might not want to have too many injuries type of things, because this makes things complicated for the very new players when they need to keep track on those things. Also, something I just spotted on the Kickstarter page is that the preview cards, they say, like they mark them as pre-production cards, they have the ready on one side and activated on the other side. So it looks like you can flip the cards over.
Yeah, so that I think that's what's replacing action tokens, basically.
But this also gives the option.
The matter was of every player on your team gets one activation, and then you can use your coach card to either activate someone or possibly do something else instead. Something like that.
But this also gives the option to have some different stuff on the other side of the cards.
Oh, that once you activate, your stats or abilities might change.
Yeah.
That would be a space for the metabots, maybe, because obviously it would be difficult to make them transforming between roles when there's no roles. But maybe they switch modes depending on whether they've acted or not, or something.
Yeah, exactly. A kind of a defensive, offensive mode.
Yeah, interesting. Good point.
So it looks like I think we got through all the big news already. We have touched the lore a little bit, the rules, the talked about JJ. So we are already in 1.5 hours. So anything else we need to ramp up for this episode? Otherwise, something important we missed.
Yeah, I'm not convinced there's much really more just now. There was obviously a huge drop compared to what there was when we talked last time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's still a lot of unknowns in terms of teams, and we have some rule quandaries and curiosities that may not be satisfied very soon, but we can stay hopeful. I wonder if they'll take the risk and release the rulebook early at any point, and if people will start getting some games using their old minis. There was, I noticed there was some confused people asking if their minis will be compatible with the new game, and they had to be cleared up. But honestly, if you can get your hold on the rules for the teams, I'm sure you'd be able to fashion some cool-ass proxies with your existing teams.
So as long as they sell the rule book on its own, there's a possibility to just
or even have free online rules like they do with most of the stuff.
Yeah. It'll probably limit to what teams will be available in that free rule book, but it will still be cool.
I mean, but you still can improvise. It's like if someone really wants to just use their old models, their old bitches, and not getting into the new stuff fully, but just buying the rules and then improvise, playtest a little bit, because you can make your own things anyway. It's not that hard to convert things over and use the new rules for, even if it's just playing a second edition with a different activation system, like keeping the old stats with your old models, but use the new movement-based or activation-based rules. It's a possibility. So if someone wants, they will find a way. Anyone else will happily go into the new book just to try things out, depending also on how pricey they are, but I don't expect them to cost a lot to just start. I mean, it will be reasonable priced if you go all in, but just to have a preview or a sneak peek with a small box, as I definitely expect a smaller box to be there with 2 teams.
That's a cool idea too, as a little sort of introductory option.
Because this was also what they have done with Halo, and this was a really good way to get people into. So, like, if you're sure about it, get the big box. If you're not sure, get the small box and just try things out. You don't lose anything if you just start small and things like that. So, and I guess all the teams will be available alone or standalone at some point. Not immediately, but at some point they will release the 4 teams on their own later. So, I think this was I don't want to call it a brief overview, but we got the information of the last weeks consolidated into 1.5 hours. So there's that. Also some of our speculation and hopes for the future out there. And so dear listener, if you enjoyed that episode, if you have any question left, if you have a certain topic do you want us to talk later on, just leave a comment here on YouTube, on Spotify, on our Discord, or wherever you interact with our community. And that's, I call it a day, or better said, at night for me already. So wherever you're listening, I wish you a good morning, day, or night, and goodbye.
Thank you very much for listening, guys. Tune in for more Dreadball next time. I'm sure we'll have plenty more to talk about Allstars, and once we run out of that, we'll have plenty more to talk about old school Dreadball, because despite what some people are saying, Dreadball Second Edition still lives.
Yeah, they're still very much alive, and you watch now. This will come out. More stuff will come out the day after we've recorded this.
Oh yeah,
it's such law. Thank you for listening.
If anything, we should start recording more often to get more info faster.
Just keep on top of it,
Yeah.
Right.
Good night, everyone.
Bye. See ya.